Okay, this video is from the book Holy Grail of Wisdom Quotes by me, Pete Rogers. And, a lot of these quotes are not in the book because the book was written, a couple years ago. It was about 700 and something pages, 700 pages. But I've added quotes since then, and there are certain quotes I wouldn't put in the book that I would add here. Okay, so Richard Dawkins is a very famous writer about evolutionary biology. And he is rather elegant. He is a smart guy. But as you get to know him, what you will see is he's really sort of like a priest of atheism. And he really is sort of a servant of the really rich people of the world who want to force atheism on the public. Because in order to get rid of Christianity, they have to replace it with a new religion. So the religion that they've chosen is atheistic Darwinism. And the reason they want atheistic Darwinism, this is rather obvious. My father's from Ireland. I'm wearing my Irish tie, my green Irish suit from my dad for the month of March, St. Patrick's Day, because I'm very familiar with all this stuff. By the way, I majored at Stanford, A+ student in evolutionary biology. The purpose of atheistic Darwinism, it is totally bogus in terms of science, but they want it because what it says is that humans are nothing. They're just talking monkeys, talking apes. Therefore, they have no rights. They have no right to privacy, no right to property, no right to freedom, no right to free speech, no right to anything. You need to get that because the average person doesn't understand this, and because of that, they're going to be forced back into slavery. Imagine that you had $1 billion. The people who have that kind of money, they look around the world and they say, look at all these stupid people. They're a bunch of vermin. All they do is pollute the sky, they pollute the rivers, they pollute the ocean. There's too many of them. We need to reduce the numbers of them. Okay, how can that be done? Well, first of all, we have to make it acceptable. And the way we can make it acceptable, we have to push atheism. Because once we've got atheism in place, that means the ruler is the equivalent of God on earth, just like a Roman emperor. They can do whatever they want. That's why you should study the Roman emperors. The Roman emperors, once there was no check on their power, they did unbelievable things. They would burn the Christians as torches. If they thought a woman was pretty, they would just send out a group of men, soldiers for the Roman emperor, and he would LL, the family, and they would just take the girl and make her into an sex slave for the ruler. That's it. Okay? That's what you get when you have atheistic Darwinism, when you say that might is right, and whoever has the power can do whatever they want. They just go around, and some of the Roman emperors insisted that they would have a concubine. A different woman would be forced to be their EX slave every day. A different one every single day. So in 1 year, 365 different ones, and then another 365 the next year. And they could just do that as long as they wanted. Okay? What I'm trying to say is that's what you get when you have atheistic Darwinism. And that's exactly what the people pushing it want. They want that the regular average person, the average pro like you and me, we have no rights. That's the purpose of all this stuff. So don't be a chump and fall for it. But I'm going to let you hear how he talks because he is a very clever, eloquent guy. That's why he gets paid a lot of money to do this stuff, okay? This is Richard Dawkins talking. He was born in 1941. The fundamental truth is that an organism is a tool of DNA rather than the other way around. Evolution is a fact. Genetic variability is explained by random mutations. Human beings are just gene machines. We admit that we are like apes, but we seldom realize that we are apes. Okay, so there he is. He's telling you, you are just a monkey. There's really no difference between you and an ape. You are an ape. So what he's saying is you're just an animal. You have no rights. An ape has no rights. An ape is in a cage at the zoo. Okay, and that's how they believe humans should be treated too, as essentially livestock, farm animals owned by their ruler. Might is right, red in tooth and claw. That's Herbert Spencer, survival of the fittest. And the English always wanted that because they had the most money and they could basically say everyone is inferior to them. They had the money and the power. And in the modern world, money is power. So that they can do whatever they want to other people. All right? And you have to understand, this is what it's all about. If you don't get that, then you're stupid, okay? And people who defend this stuff, it's because they think they're going to be partners with the owners who are going to abuse everybody else and depopulate everybody else, okay? Dawkins continues from The Blind Watchmaker, this one. Biology is the study of complicated things that give the appearance of having been designed for a purpose. I have no explanation for complex biological design. All I know is that God is not a good explanation. So we must wait and hope that somebody comes up with a better one. Okay, so he admits that he has no idea how to explain the origin of complexity on Earth. You cannot explain it with conventional evolutionary thinking. Evolutionary thinking says random mutations can create all the complexity of life. That's ridiculous. You don't. It's like saying you have an audio CD and you scratch it and that improves it. You can't improve on Bach and Mozart and Handel and Beethoven and Brahms and all the other great composers by scratching their CD with a paperclip. That's what a mutation is. It's a random damage to the information. It's ridiculous. It subtracts. It doesn't add anything good. You really can't do it. You know, the old joke was if you had 1,000 chimpanzees typing on typewriters that they would eventually type Shakespeare. But that's nonsense. They put 100 chimpanzees in a room with typewriters and all they do is poop on the typewriters. That's what you get with this type of nonsense, okay? The next thing he says, any altruistic system is inherently unstable because it is open to abuse by selfish individuals who are ready to exploit it. That's actually the truth about Christian societies. Notice that it's routine for people all over the world to want to migrate and move to a Western Christian society because the people and the behavior are pretty nice, okay? Versus almost nobody wants to move to other cultures because they're not nice to foreigners, okay? Whereas Western Christians tend to be nice. Anybody can become a Christian. You just say, I want to be a Christian, okay? You'll notice that. And then the other big thing that's always pushed on the USA population, oh, you're racist, oh, you're racist. Oh, BS. If America was racist, why does everybody want to come here, okay? Why do all the different populations and peoples want to come here if America's racist? Because they know it's not. It's less racist than any country in the world. That's all BS, okay? That's used as an excuse to destroy the country and to destroy meritocracy, okay? And all this affirmative action stuff, it's illegitimate, okay? And the reason I say it's illegitimate is when you have a talented minority. I, for example, my mother's from Puerto Rico. She's off the boat. She's as Puerto Rican as it gets. I'm not welcome anywhere in that affirmative action, diversity stuff, okay? Why? Because I'm super smart and I'm honest and they can't corrupt me. They want people who aren't that bright, who are mediocre, who they can install as puppets to control things, okay? They don't want really smart minorities. They don't want somebody like me. I was forbidden from teaching any of the minority students, okay? They don't want me to teach them because they don't want them to improve their academics. They want them to be easy to control. That's how it works, okay? That's a fact. I've written to hundreds of minority organizations. Not a single one would invite me to teach their students. I offered for free. I was kind of curious because I like to show off my knowledge of study skills. Not a single one was interested in hearing it. Not a single one has ever wanted me to speak or be present at all. They don't like highly competent minorities. They don't like Thomas Sowell, okay? They like controllable people. Okay, you're not going to control a real smart, honest Christian person. That's why they hate Christianity too, because we answer to God. We don't answer to some, bogus ruler. We physically are forced to sometimes, but in our mind's eye, we do not. Okay? Let's continue. Now, here's a little more of Dawkins, what he's really about. It is absolutely safe to say that if you meet somebody who claims not to believe in evolution, that person is ignorant, stupid, or insane, or wicked, but I'd rather not consider that. So what he's basically saying is, if you don't believe in atheistic Darwinism, then you're a heretic, okay? And this is why any professor in a university who says we should consider intelligent design, they fire him, okay? They don't tolerate heretics. It's a religion. This is not science. Dawkins continues, the time has come for people of reason to say, enough is enough. Religious faith discourages independent thought. It is divisive. It is dangerous. Okay, so they want to get rid of all religion. I'm telling you, like I said, this is a puppet for big money wanting to commit you-know-what side of Christians and to force the remainder of the population into slavery. Okay, it's obvious. Anybody who knows any history knows this. This is obvious. Study what happened in Russia, in 1918, okay, and then after that. It's pretty obvious. This is the mentality you use to you-know-what side, all the Christians, 65 million of them in Russia, and then force all the remaining population into slavery, okay? You can also use starvation as a technique, okay? But anyways, let's continue. Leaders who forbid their followers to use effective contraceptive methods express a preference for natural methods of population limitation. And a natural method is exactly what they are going to get. It is called starvation. Okay, so see where he's coming from here. What he wants is to reduce the numbers of the population. This is what you see. This all goes together. Atheistic Darwinism basically says there's too many proles, a bunch of talking apes, they're really no better than vermin, life's not worth living as the vocabulary of the 1930s, and we need to reduce their numbers. Okay? That's why, AB, you know what, Orsh, you know what, in is celebrated. Okay? That's why that's like the sacrament of modernism. Okay? And they also want to destroy culture, and they do it with modern art, they do it with fake education, destruction of meritocracy, destruction of noble masculinity, and all this other BS. Okay? And I just want you to see, he is the mouthpiece. He's like the Pope of Satanism. Okay? So let's continue here. Evolution is fundamentally hostile to religion. So notice this is the exact opposite of Thomas Aquinas. He basically is saying evolution and religion cannot go together. Science, and when he says evolution, he means in his mind science. He's basically saying science and religion cannot go together. I say it's the exact opposite. In my opinion, you cannot have science without Christian ethics. And I say that based on being a doctor over 30 years. Because once you throw Christian ethics out the door, then you basically say mankind are talking monkeys. We can abuse them whatever way we want to get money out of them. And that's exactly what you get with conventional medicine. All this BS about drugs and surgery. The cure rate for Esselstyn's diet is 100%. Okay, why wouldn't we offer a treatment that cures 100% and increases longevity? Instead, we offer stents and cabbage, which have zero improvement in longevity with standard cardiac angina, the most common indication, and coronary artery stenosis. Okay, that's abuse of the proles. And it goes on and on. All those psych meds cause a slow or a rapid with antipsychotic lobotomy. Why do we do that? Why do we poison people with that stuff? Because it's profitable. Okay, let's continue. Evolution has no goal. There is no long-distance target, no final perfection to serve as a criterion for selection. Although human vanity cherishes the absurd notion that our species is the final goal of evolution. Natural selection has no vision, no foresight, no sight at all. If it can be said to play the role of a watchmaker, it can be said to play the role of a watchmaker. It is a blind watchmaker. So what he's basically saying is, your life has no meaning. You have no God. There is no purpose or meaning in your life. You're just a monkey that talks. That's what he's saying. And he's therefore saying, and the corollary of that is you have no rights, you have no intrinsic value, there's nothing special about you, there's nothing meaningful about you, there is no afterlife, you have no God, you are nothing. That's what he's telling you. And therefore you must obey your ruler and shut your mouth. You are just a farm animal owned by your ruler. That is what he's saying. It's important to understand that. Okay, and this is the standard agreed upon religion of the public grade schools, the public high schools, and the colleges, and the public universities. And that's a big part of why they stink. Okay? You can't fix healthcare and nutrition and college education until you have Christian ethics. People don't need to be Christians, but they need Christian ethics, which say man is created in the image of God, therefore we will not abuse him. We will treat him right. He's part divine as well as part beast, and therefore he deserves respect, kindness, free speech, and the right to, pursuit of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. He deserves that. And unless you grant him that individual rights, everything goes to crap, because then it just becomes a game to figure out how to scam money, which is what current science is. It's all fake. It's a game for advertising, for money. Okay, let's continue with Richard Dawkins. He says, much as we might wish to believe otherwise, universal love and welfare of the species as a whole are concepts which simply do not make evolutionary sense. So that's what he's saying. He says, being nice doesn't make fucking sense. What you should do is be part of a group and kick the crap out of all the other groups. Okay? That's where he's coming from. The universe we observe has precisely the properties we should expect if there is at bottom no design, no purpose, no evil, no good, nothing but blind, pitiless indifference. How thoughtful of God to arrange matters so that wherever you happen to be born, the local religion always turns out to be the true one. Faith is one of the world's great evils. It's like smallpox, but it's harder to eradicate. So he says religion is evil, despite the fact that almost everything good in the world has come from religion, has come from Christianity. The scientific method, the cathedrals, the great painting, the great music, the great literature, the great metaphysical worldview of man created in the image of God, and you should be good to him, love thy neighbor, forgive, all that stuff, Sermon on the Mount, all the stuff that sort of makes life worth living. Okay, let's continue. Being an atheist frees you up to live this life properly, happily, fully. Such delusions of grandeur, to think that a God with 100 million galaxies on his mind would give a tuppenny damn who you sleep with, or indeed whether you believe in him. It is truly disgusting that the creator of the universe, capable of inventing the laws of physics and designing the evolutionary process, that this protege of supernatural intellect couldn't think of a better way to forgive our sins than to have himself tortured to death. Presumably what happened to Jesus was what happens to all of us when we die. We decompose. Accounts of Jesus' resurrection and ascension are about as well documented as Jack and the Beanstalk. By the way, the life of Christ and the death and resurrection of Christ, that stuff's all very well documented. Take a look at The Case for the Creator by Lee Strobel. It's the best of the apologetics, historical books about the life of Christ. There's a whole bunch of other ones. That's the best one, though. The Case for Christ by Lee Strobel. Read that, and then if you want, read more. But you'll see, you'd be amazed at how good all the life of Christ stuff is documented. Okay, next. We are machines built by DNA whose purpose is to make copies of the same DNA. So he's basically saying we're no better than bacteria. He goes, this is exactly what we are for. We are machines for propagating DNA, and the propagation of DNA is a self-sustaining process. It is every living object's sole reason for living. So he says the only reason you're alive is because your genes caused you to be made so that they could ambulate around, move around, and that's the only purpose of living. There is no meaning to life other than that our genes can replicate. Scientific beliefs are supported by evidence, and they get results. Myth and faiths are not, and they do not get results. I would say it's just the opposite. So-called science prescribes drugs for treatment of hypertension and diabetes and coronary artery disease, and it never cures the patient. 0% cure rate. Whereas God's way, Genesis 1:29, eating plant foods, it cures the patient 100% of the time. Low-fat plant foods with no oil, that cures hypertension. That cures diabetes. That cures obesity. That cures coronary artery disease. Okay. And then Dawkins continues. He says, Voltaire got it right long ago when he said, those who can make you believe absurdities can make you commit atrocities. Yeah, he's calling the kettle black. He's projecting because he is the one trying to tell you that life is meaningless, that people are just talking apes, because that then gives permission to people to abuse them. Whereas the words of Christ don't. Christ says, that which you do to the least of my brethren, you do unto me. Okay? Man is created in the image of God. Ayn Rand had said, the most important rights are individual rights. The smallest minority is the individual. If you grant individual rights, you grant all other rights. And that is correct. Saying people are talking apes is the same thing as saying they belong in cages and have no rights. Okay? All right, Dawkins continues. The machine code of genes is uncannily computer-like. Apart from differences in jargon, the pages of a molecular biology journal might be interchanged with those of a computer engineering journal. That's actually not true. If you look at nutrition, it's pretty simple to teach nutrition like I do on this YouTube channel, and that's more useful than everything else in all the medical books combined. Okay, Dawkins continues. This is from his real famous book, The Selfish Gene. He says, now they swarm in huge colonies, safe inside giant lumbering robots, sealed off from the outside world, communicating with it by tortuous indirect routes, manipulating it by remote control. They are in you and me. They created us, body and mind, and their preservation is the ultimate rationale for our existence. So he's saying basically us humans are simply a creature with 2 arms and 2 legs that simply permits our genes to walk around and obtain food, and that we have no other meaning in life other than that. So anyways, that's where Richard Dawkins is coming from, and don't trust that guy. He's full of crap. You can't get around, let's just go through the Lennox argument. Lennox said basically if you were walking on the beach, you saw your name written on the beach, you would know an intelligent person with intention who was literate wrote your name. Okay, your name, what is it, 10 letters? Okay. What is the DNA genome of humans? 3.3 billion base pairs of complex biochemistry. So if a person had to be smart enough to read and have intention to write your name on the beach, how is 3.3 billion base pairs of complex biochemistry going to be written? You think that's going to happen spontaneously by chance? No way. It doesn't make any sense. How does the brain, with trillions of connections, 100 billion neurons, brain cells, the communicating ones that release neurotransmitters, plus 10 times that many supporting cells, glial cells, oligodendrocytes, microglia, astrocytes, how does all that stuff form and connect up correctly? Spontaneously? How does the human eye, with all its millions and millions of cells, all properly connected, how does that connect itself and invent itself? How does the blood clotting system, the immune system, how do all these systems spontaneously develop? How does a cell, produce all its DNA, its genes, its protein? That all spontaneously happen? It's ridiculous. It's so complicated, it's not even funny. So anyways, we're not going to go any more of this, but that's just to give you a taste, just to know Richard Dawkins represents big money, and the big money that wants to reduce the numbers of the pros. And that's how they speak.